Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for another Sunday live stream here. We're going to take a little look at a jam from Child, which is it's an incredible song anyway, and this was a suggestion from Shafty Mays is the username. He's also a patron, so thanks so much for the suggestion. And more than go through this, I did like a minute of the jam, so rather than go through every single note and do it as is, we'll kind of look at just maybe some of the concepts that are happening and some things that might be helpful if you want to create that kind of sound. Hey, what's up, Hogan? So yeah, it'll be a fun one to look at. So, for the most part, right off the bat, what I can say is that it seems that Trey is coming from a place of looking at the chords and the chord tones he wants to hit, and then everything comes from there, and it's really melodic and really beautiful. And so what we'll do, hey, what's up, Matt? How's it going, man? So we're gonna, in a moment, I'll put on the clip that we're gonna look at, and then kind of break it down, and it'll be cool. It'll be awesome. How's everybody doing? Hope you guys are having some nice spring weather here in Michigan. It's very fickle, but better than what we've had. So, let's get into it here. So I'm gonna play this thing. You guys just let me know if you can hear it, okay? And we'll go from there. So here we go. This is actually it's Trey Band 99, and we'll give it a look and a listen. Cool. So that's the clip we're gonna look at, and as you can probably see, just what's always the best is when you can not only hear what Trey's doing, but actually watch it. It's really super helpful. Obviously, just seeing where he's coming from, what he's doing. There are two chords happening. There's an F major chord and there's a B flat major chord. And I would think of that as going 1 to 4. We're in the key of F, and everything comes from those two chords. So if you look at and I'll actually pull the video up in a minute. We can go, bit by bit here. But in the very beginning, he's coming from just like this diagonal kind of F chord down here, and then And then the other thing he's doing is, if you imagine a B flat major chord like this, doing a bar chord, he's taking the upper part of that and kind of moving it like this, so he can go, and then going back down to the F chord down here in this kind of typical diagonal shape. So that's, and we'll get into a couple of the little melodic things in a minute, but that's the 1 chord and the 4 chord, kind of like that. And he's doing some really cool stuff. Then he jumps up and takes this type of voicing and he moves that up for F. And then we go up here and we can kind of accomplish the same thing. But now when we play our B flat, if this is our F, our B flat ends up in this this shape. And this is kind of classic Trey stuff when he's doing these. And it's really, you know, it's really coming probably, you know, if we want to go back and see where he's getting it from, it's probably, you know, Allman Brothers type stuff. You know, that kind of stuff. So we're going to have an F up here and then a B flat for the most part. And then he pretty much stays with that, and then eventually goes up and comes back up here, the octave of where we were to start. And then we're up here and then here, which is kind of cool. Just noticed I have too much gain. I want this a little cleaner. Okay, cool. So let's do this. I'll pull it back up and take a look and break it down. So even right there, you know, when you got he's hitting, it's actually kind of cool the way he's doing this with the F. He's hitting the root and the fifth for the most part. And that is just such a cool sound. It's so simple, but what happens, I think, is if you do that and you're keeping it really sparse and really simple, when you do go and hit a major third, it really brings it out, and it seems to really shine. Maybe that's the biggest takeaway, is that in this particular jam, there's a simplicity that's really beautiful, but it allows certain parts to really come out. So then when he goes to this one, now he's hitting, this is interesting because it's kind of, it's like an upside down version of this in a way. You know, we're going to our B flat, but we're hitting the fifth of B flat, which is just, it's an F. And then a D, which is our major third of B flat. And then he goes up here and just doubles the F again, and then hits a G, which is actually, that's the 6 of our B flat. So that kind of makes it, if you were to play it in a chord form, it's that kind of vibe, or like that. So yeah, really simple stuff. You've got and by the way, if anybody wants to look at the transcription, there should be a link that is, hopefully it works, for a Dropbox file, and you can just download it and check it out. So that should be in the description of this video, if you want to look at it now as we go, or, you know, after. But again, I'm not doing note for note right now because, for one thing, I just transcribed it Friday and I don't have it memorized anyway. But it's more about the sort of like looking under the hood at what's going on here. Now right there, he takes the same kind of motif and then adds on. So you hear, like, the first time through is kind of more, it's like that, but then when he goes the second time around, we go to A, which is awesome. Now, again, it's so simple but so beautiful. So when he throws in that higher A is the major 7 of our B flat that we're playing. So that's a really pretty sound. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I love that. You know, that kind of sound is beautiful. And depending on how you want to look at it, you can think of that as a B flat major 7. You could think of it as a G minor 9. You know, as a soloist, you probably want to put my guitar like that. You know, you may want to consider both paths. You know, you've got a B flat major 7 type chord, and then it's pretty much the same thing as a G minor 9, which is really cool. But when he does go to that, it just stands out so much more because he was kind of holding back on it. And then we go back to the F. So let's listen to a little more here. I love that. So then, you know, he's kind of, now he's starting to get a little more involved with the picking, and he's throwing some stuff in there. Then he does this cool thing here where we're in that B flat shape, and on the G string we go 3, 5, and then 3 of D, or sorry, 3 of B, which is a D, which is, again, it's really awesome. Last month when we looked at the Taste Jam, it had a similar kind of vibe happening, and that's just major pentatonic. And then we go back to F. So just back and forth, 2 chords. And I gotta say, what's up? Okay, Brian, I actually didn't. Okay, Brian is the one who suggested this, and I'm really happy you did, because it actually is perfect for kind of what I've been talking about, or trying to talk about lately with the live stream in general, is to maybe consider not throwing away, you know, scales, but using them as a way to look at how chords unfold. And this is kind of what Trey is the master of, and it's so it just sounds so like him. And that's all he's doing. He's taking 2 chords in a couple different voicings and getting a lot of beautiful movement out of them. So Brian, thanks so much. I only knew you as your screen name, Shafty Maze, which I love, but thanks so much, man. And he said the transcription link is working, so any of you guys want to grab it, go right ahead. But now I'm going to go back a couple seconds here because I was talking and missed this transition here. So. Okay, right there. Now that is just, that's the best. So when we go up here from down here with our root position F and jump all the way up to this 10th fret voicing of it, you'll notice that he's playing it in this sort of, here, I'll get rid of the video for a moment. He's doing more of this like 2-note. I think of this as like the bluesy, that kind of vibe. But it's way up here, and it's, by getting rid of some of the other notes, everything just stands out. And then when we're over the B flat, if you really listen, the bass player has gone to the B flat, and then we're throwing in a B flat with our pinky up here on 11 of B. And then he slides, and then goes, and that's kind of that Allman Brother vibe. And again, think of this shape. You know, it looks so simple, and it kind of is, but it's your F major bar chord, and that's really sort of the root of everything we're doing here. It's this, and then this for B flat, and we'll get into this shape in a moment, in actually one other shape that's going to happen. So let's go back. Oh gosh, I think I have to. Let me see here. Here we go. Okay, and that right there. Sorry to keep playing and stopping. Let me play that again. Again, such a Trey kind of lick. Now there, he's doing this like. You know, more or less, that's the vibe going on there. So if you think of your, again, this F chord, and then putting it into first inversion, sort of the Jimi Hendrix kind of thing. Well, then when you go to 12, I'm going to go back to my cam. When we go back to 12th fret of D, that's the major third. D is the major third of B flat. So then you can just throw in your chord. That's a B flat chord in first inversion. And then he goes that kind of thing. So what that is then you're just throwing in your root. And I think he's doing a little passing tone. I got to look at the transcription, but and then back to the F with a little pull off, which is just I keep saying that, but it really is awesome. It's so simple. So what what I think is a really helpful way to approach this kind of thing, if you want to get better at sort of hitting chord tones or just coming from chord shapes, whatever way you want to think of it, whatever gets you there, just throw on, like I've got the looper here, and I just looped an F and a B flat. Hopefully you guys can hear that, and then you can just play around. And so that's what it is. You got the F and the B flat. Now there is one other thing I wanted to point out here. One other shape. So let's go back to the video. Right there. So let's give that another look. There's a lot of cool stuff going on right there. I'll go a little further back. I love that. Okay, cool. So in that thing, so if we had just kind of come from this, and then he's like. Now, this is the other chord shape I wanted to talk about. He throws in an F major, but rather than thinking of it like this, like your bar chord, then he's going into this kind of, if you think, it's just like a G chord down here. If you want to think of it in those terms, it's like this kind of shape, but way up here on a 13 of low E. And you can really see everything just unfolds from there. There's your root, your major third, your fifth, root third, and on it goes. But the really cool thing about working in this way, soloing this way, is that you can really easily go from your 1 to your 4, which is what we need in this progression. So maybe that's, what could be the exercise for you, is just going between an F and then to a B flat. And right there, there's a ton of great stuff you can do with that. Now, so far, he hasn't done anything that, at least to my ear, so far is outside of the major scale, out of F major. But there is a part kind of toward the end of this clip where he does, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But the other thing you can do that really works well in this F position here, this kind of second inversion of F up here, is it lends itself really well to doing your, whichever way you want to think of it, F major pentatonic, or you can think of that as D minor pentatonic. I know a lot of people tend to have an easier time, I think, thinking of the minor pentatonic. I think that as guitar players, for whatever reason, that's what a lot of us are shown kind of early on, is that shape. But anyway, you can combine that with your run. It could be and then what you do is, when you're ready to go to the B flat, you can still touch on some of these major pentatonic things, but then throw in that chord shape. You're kind of overlaying that chord shape on top of the other one. And you just expand your pool of notes. So that would be something like. It's awesome. I don't know. I think that right there just sounds. That's enough to keep me busy, you know, without any other scale or any other, you know, kind of notes in there. But let's continue on and check out sort of the end here of this clip. There's that little bend, and that's coming right from the F major pentatonic or D minor pentatonic. Now right there, oh cool, that was what I wanted to look at. Let's go back a few seconds. Okay, now, does anybody? There are only a few of you guys hanging out, which is cool. But does anybody want to take a crack at what that extra note was? I'm gonna play it again. See if you can just, you know, do a little ear training and really listen for what that sounds like to you. You want to use your F major scale as a reference. And I'm not saying like what is the exact note, but what degree is it? You know, in terms of the scale, is it the third? Is it the, you know, fourth? Is it the flat 5, or so on? Let's listen again and see if anybody wants to take a stab at it. Yeah, one more time. Cool. So I'm gonna give it a minute because I know I'm on a delay. But let's see if anybody wants to see what that extra note is. Yeah, I'll go back up here. So the rung was something like this. So it happens really quick. It's just a really quick thing, but but I could go on a whole tangent about that. But let's just see if anybody wants to chime in. What is that note? There it is again, but an octave lower. And while I'm still waiting for anybody to chime in here, so again, thanks Brian for the suggestion to look at this tune. He just recently became a patron, which I really appreciate. But that's the spot where you can, if you have a minute clip that you want to have looked at, if you just are like, I've always wanted to know what this jam is or what this part is, go to the Patreon and then just put the link to the video and I'll do it. And that's what I'm always looking for, is what you guys want to look at, you know, because sometimes what I think is cool or what I'm interested in isn't really what other people want to look at. So I really want to know what you guys are digging and curious about and want to learn about. One last time, any takers on what that note is that I'm doing? And again, I'm not saying is it a D, is it an E flat or whatever. I'm just curious if anybody is hearing the sound of that interval and what that is. Does it have to be Phish? Okay, so I was just saying, let me know if there's something you want to learn about, and the question is, does it have to be Phish? It doesn't have to be Phish, but like for instance, this technically isn't Phish that we're looking at tonight. This is Trey Band, but it's within the Phish world. Does it have to be Phish? I'm not personally against. Obviously, I do other stuff that isn't Phish all the time, but I try to keep this stuff on the channel pretty focused on Phish. But it depends. What are you talking about, Andy? Let me know what you're thinking, and then we can go from there. And you can okay. So while I'm waiting for Andy to chime in, okay. So Brian he's the note that I was talking about. He was thinking maybe it's the flat 5, and that's a really good guess. It's super close. The note that is happening there. We'll check it out first. Let's check out what the flat 5 would sound like in that context. It would be that would be the flat 5 of F, which is a B natural, or sharp 4. If you wanted to think of it as like a Lydian chord, like that. So that is an awesome sound, but it's a little different. But as you can see here, I'm gonna play it again. So you can see the flat 5s here. The note that I was hitting was here, as it's a little higher. But I'll just get into it. That is the minor 6, and the reason that I love that he threw that note in is because last month I went on a sort of a tangent about the 6th diminished scale, and I think it's massively important, and it's so important to me personally that I use that as a default scale. Like for instance, rather than thinking of the major scale as we know it as a 7-note scale, Ionian, I just default to the 6th diminished scale. So I just include that note in my playing where applicable as a default. And that's what he did there. I'm not, who knows, sometimes if this stuff if he did it on purpose or was thinking consciously, okay, let me throw in this note. But if you throw that note into your playing as an available option, think of your scale as just a group of notes. It's just a combination of notes that you can rearrange in any order that you want to create different kinds of chords, different runs you can do, lots of different stuff you can come up with just with that pool of notes. But if you throw in that one extra note, the implications of it are pretty huge. Your Phrygian can become a dominant chord. So instead of, let me turn this up. You can have and I think that's a beautiful sound. Having that minor 6 and major 6 is really cool, especially if you want some more color to your improvising. Anyway, minor 6 is what it was. But thanks, Brian, for throwing that out there. Flat 5 is awesome as well. Let's watch this thing again, and then I'll just kind of open it up, and we'll just hang, and if there's any questions, we can go from there. Okay, let me pause it there. I actually didn't talk about that part yet. Then he jumps up. Okay, so once we go back up to the root position of F, way up here, on 15th of D and kind of set things up. Then he puts the pinky on the 15th fret of G, and so what effectively you're going to end up with is this like B flat sus chord. You know, if you think of a chord like this kind of thing, you know, it's awesome. Whoop. Just a really simple, really beautiful chord voicing. And when you contrast that, this one with this shape, it gives you just a slightly different vibe, a slightly different color. Which, you know, if you're improvising, you're probably just always looking for that next sound or the next thing that can inspire you to come up with a cool melody or a cool line. So that was cool. Let's finish this up. And that's kind of where that's as far as I got with the transcription. So, cool. I'm going to open it up to you guys. Any questions about, maybe we should start with this one. If there are any questions about this, you know, we could talk about that. I guess the couple main points I would say about this kind of jam or this kind of sound, is coming from the chord, knowing, you know, so obviously the things that are required for this kind of playing are knowing what the chords are in the key you're playing in. In this case, we're in F. Excuse me. So we have F, G minor, A minor, B flat, potentially with a Lydian vibe. We've got C, that could be a dominant, D minor, and E half diminished. So that's kind of your pool of chords you can draw from. And then what you would probably want to do after you figure out that stuff is figure out where you can play all of those chords. So kind of like what he's doing here, he's going from that root position diagonal shape of F down here, and then kind of moving up as he goes. But just knowing, like, I guess, like, for instance, like, here's your F. You could play it like that. Like that. So those are just a couple of spots you can do a really simple triad and build some cool themes off of that. There's your, if you want to think of that as first inversion, second inversion, and then back up. And you could do that with your B flat. Here's your second inversion is the first voicing that we do in the solo. We go from here to here. So here's a B flat in second inversion. Here's a root position, and then here is first inversion. So, you know, like, maybe throw on your looper. And just kind of move around into the different spots you can play the same two chords. Because right there, even with those two chords, each one of those chords has a couple inversions if you're just keeping it a simple triad. And then, you know, so that right there, that gives you a ton of options, not including, you know, every once in a while throwing in a bend or throwing in, you know, that minor 6, or like Brian was saying, flat 5. Now an interesting thing is, Brian, if you're still hanging out, the flat 5 thing, that's something, if you plug it in the right spot, it really will sound cool, which in this case would be over the B flat rather than the F. So if you're playing a B flat, and really we probably want to call it a sharp 4. So take your B flat like this, and then just drop the pointer finger down, and that can give you that flat 5 sound. My guitar is really out of tune. So anyway, yeah, that's the Sorry, guys. That's the idea. Is number one, figure out your key. Number two, figure out what all the chords are in the key. And all you have to do for that, really, the thing to remember is you want to do the whole step minor, half step major, whole step minor, whole step, half diminished, half step, you're back. That's the formula. If you can remember that, you can play in any key and you'll know what all the chords are. Cool. Here's a comment. Thanks so much. So yeah, just a really nice comment from Barner. Thank you so much. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Or who? Yeah, Barner. I'm not sure, but thanks for the comment. I really appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions about the tune we're talking about or anything in general? Hey, what's up? Phase 460. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Is this stuff making sense with the chords? And actually, I gotta backtrack. So what I was saying was, yeah, obviously, try to know the key that you're playing, and that's the most important thing. And then know the chords that are in that key. And then the other thing is then being able to hit the chord tones that you want to. Now, this is a really subjective thing. Like, you may not always necessarily want to hit the major third or the fifth. You may want to hit other stuff, but just knowing how to find those things is really helpful. Like, for instance, let's look at the three shapes that I was referencing with the triads. So we'll take F, for example. So with F, you've got your root, and the diagonal goes across, and it's in order. You've got your root, your major third, and your fifth. So that's how, if you're soloing, you'll know which one you can, which one to hit. And it kind of is intuitive. It makes sense that way. But then if we go up to the next one, then it just looks a little different. Now it's stacked differently. You've got your major third here. You've got your fifth here and your root here. We've just taken the root and flipped it on top. So even if you just take the same kind of vibe and put the inversion in it, it's going to feel different. And you can start throwing in other notes. I threw in the major second and the fifth on top. Then if we go up here to the second inversion, then we just, it's the other way around. We've got the fifth on the bottom, the root in the middle, and the major third. So just simple things like that, knowing where each one of those notes are from the chord in each different position, is I think massively helpful, because then you can target whichever one you want to hit at that moment and just kind of be on top of it. Yeah, cool. So again, any questions, anybody? Anybody working on anything? So Andy, if you're still hanging out, he was wondering, do the suggestions have to be Phish? Not necessarily, but let me know what you're thinking. And yeah. On the first, I'm putting out Split Open and Melt. That'll be the next proper lesson that I'm doing, and that one, man, that's been it's not that it's the hardest song to play, but it's just so strange and not predictable, and so I hope you guys dig the transcription I did. I really try to dig up a couple of videos and really look at what's going on. But there aren't a ton that I've found for Split Open Melt. It'd be really cool if we somehow, it's a fun one to play. It'd be cool if this whole community of people that really care about Phish and really love Phish could somehow network and find as much video footage of stuff. Like, you know, having like if we go to the shows, like I'll be at Alpine, I really should get in there and try to like zoom in on Trey's, you know, his playing. But I know there are a couple people out there that kind of do that, or I don't know if they're guitar players and do it on purpose, or they're just kind of doing that anyway. But it's so helpful to just really see it, because songs like Split Open and Melt or Fluffhead was, I ran into similar issues where it's just so strange, you know, with some of the chords being played and some of the runs, that it really requires seeing what's happening. You know, there's only so much you can guess by ear, you know. So anyway, Split Open and Melt will be out on the 1st, and then yeah, it'd be cool to see what you guys are into for one after that. I haven't done any like newer Phish songs, so if there every once in a while I get a suggestion for a newer song, but I haven't heard one in a while, so you guys let me know what you're thinking. But it's incredible with this jam that we're looking at tonight, how much you can get out of 2 chords, and 2 chords that share, you know, a note between them, you know, which is even crazier. It's awesome. And you know, then the next step, if you want to kind of spice it up a little bit more, when you go to play, like let's say your B flat. Like I was kind of saying earlier, rather than thinking of B flat, maybe try thinking of that as your G minor 9, which also is Dorian. So like when you get up to the B flat up here, instead of plugging that chord in and doing the fingering for that, you can think of a G minor Dorian kind of vibe. So here's the F, G minor, that's, you know, even if you just throw that one other chord in, that's enough to keep you busy too. You know, between an F, a B flat, and a G minor, there's a world of sound you can do. So cool. Well, you know, kind of a short and sweet one, I guess. Tonight it doesn't look like there are too many questions going on, so I'll give it one more minute, and if you guys do have anything, or you know, it doesn't have to be about this song, any random thing, I'll just open it up, and then we'll call it a night. And as always, if you have ideas for other stuff, you know, again, you can go to the Patreon, leave a link to the video that you want to have transcribed, or you can leave a comment. Just let me know. Always happy to do it. Okay, I just got a question off topic, but who inspired you to start playing? Thanks for the question. So my dad is a guitar player. I actually just this afternoon recorded one of his tunes over at my house. I've got this little studio where I do these videos and live streams. But that's my inspiration, is my dad. My dad is a guitar player. He's a really, really awesome songwriter, a really great singer. Kind of like a real, sort of coming from more of a poet kind of thing. he's not so much like a lead guitar guy, but he's more all about the melody and the lyric. So I learned a lot from him. And then he always had bands. I mean, the day I was born, he left to play a gig in New York, and went out there and played, and and has been playing ever since. And so that's my guy. That's my inspiration. Thanks for asking. Okay, Brian's asking for Stash Improv for future. Yes. Okay, so Brian, absolutely. I would love to. Do me a favor, and what I really am looking for is not only just the song that you want, but I'm looking for a specific, like I always cap it at a minute, because believe it or not, a minute takes a while to transcribe. Live stuff is tricky to transcribe. I'm just kind of slow, so a minute max. So what I'm really looking for is, please, look up a version that you really like, look up a minute that you want, and then send me the timestamp for that. That would be massively helpful, and yes, I will do that. And then Bathtub Gin Phish tribute. Thanks for your work. Thanks. Bathtub Gin, I think I checked out your videos. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much. Absolutely. Where are you guys from, Bathtub Gin? Let everybody know. So Phase 460, who was asking who my inspiration was, said very, very cool. Same here. Gotta love the old man. Absolutely. Man, I'm lucky to have, well, he's just a great guy anyway, but to grow up in a family and a culture of music and art, and where there's a real importance put on that, has been really important, really, really important. Cool. Any other questions, guys? And Brian, don't forget, put that if you can look up a stash that you really want to look at, or have a lesson for, put that timestamp on there. And actually, while I'm thinking about it too, kind of related to, there was a question a little bit ago from Andy, asking, does it have to be Phish? And one thing I've been thinking about, there are many things I want to share with you guys that aren't coming necessarily from Trey, but I think could be really helpful, just from an educational standpoint, from an improv standpoint. So I do have a YouTube channel that's just my own channel, and I might start putting some random stuff on there that I think might be helpful. And as I do it, I'll just link it and share it with you guys. And maybe that's how I'll do it. I just like to keep, things as focused, for this channel as I can on the playing of Trey and Phish in general. Well, cool. I think that does it, guys. Thanks so much once again. Leave your comments for stuff you want to see, like Brian did. Thanks for the positive comments. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. This is always really fun. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the night and stays safe. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much.